Our last topic in this series is how to introduce the topic and behavior issues to your clients. And it's not only how, but also why. And you probably partly know this, but it never hurts to mention it again. So today's menu is tips to get your clients to ask for help. We're going to look at Dr. Margaret Duxbury's study. She and her team did a study when they had two groups of clients. And so the clients coming into vet practices were put into two categories. Some of them, they just did as usual. And they looked at how many of these clients actually talked about some of the behavior concerns that are happening with cats. They also did the study with dogs, but I'm presenting it only here with cats. So this is the phase 1 in red, and these are the questions, in other words, the problem behaviors. And then they had clients where they actually, between the moment where they signed in at the reception desk and the moment that the veterinarian entered the exam room, these people had to fill out an 8 or 9 questions questionnaire where they just had to tick boxes. Does your cat do this behavior, for example? So it was just a small sheet of paper, a couple of questions with just yes or no, and those are the people in blue, and they looked at the difference in behavior issues that were reported to the vet. So the first question was about litter box, and so if you don't give this small questionnaire, about 8% of people will mention, I'm having issues with my cat not using his litter box. If you do have the question, then you're at about 20%. So that's a big difference. So there's a lot of people whose cats don't go inside the litter box, but if you don't ask about it, they might not tell you. Question 2 was about disorientation, and I believe there was also meowing at night. So being disoriented, maybe meowing. No one reported that unless they were asked. And then we have about 11-12% of people who actually reported that, which is very pertinent again. Question 5 was about human aggression, so about 8% if you didn't have the questionnaire, and then 26% if you did have the questionnaire. This is really big, it's a really big difference. Question 6 was about over-grooming, and again we have a big difference. Question 7 is actually really nice, is are you satisfied with your cat? And so unfortunately no one said, oh, I really love this cat while they were at the vet. But if there was a questionnaire, a lot of people, like 90% of people, are actually satisfied with their cat. So that's really nice. And then you have question 8, which was, do you want help? No one asked for help. But if they were asked a question, something like 16-17% of people actually would like help with this behavior issue. So there's a big gap here that's really interesting. And if we sum up all the questions, well, if you don't ask, you'll get about 13% of people saying they have an issue. And if you do ask, then you get to 47 about. So it's really worth it to actually ask these questions, partly because people need help, and also because, of course, some of these answers tell us that there might be a medical concern. And so they concluded that dog and cat owners were more likely to identify behavior concerns when prompted than they were to volunteer this information, especially for older patients in which behavior changes may be the first sign of disease. There's one thing I want to bring forward. Question 8 was, are you concerned enough about your cat's behaviors to want help improving or changing these behaviors? And so that's a bit of a weird way of phrasing this question. Are you concerned enough? It makes you feel like, oh my God, there's a big deal here. There's a problem. So maybe I would phrase that differently, but nevertheless, with this phrasing of question, there still was this 17-18% of people who did want help. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was even higher, if it was maybe phrased a little differently. And so what questions to ask? Well, you have the more classic questions, which are the, the ones that were in the study's questionnaire. So things like, does your cat sometimes urinate or defecate outside the box? Does your cat sometimes seem disoriented? Do they vocalize at night? Does your cat overgroom themselves? Is their coat getting thinner? Does your cat eat undigestible items? And how does your cat go up and or down furniture or stairs? And there's a really nice little quiz for people with little figures of cats moving about on the Zoetis website. I'll put that link in the resources for this presentation. And so these questions, you might actually already be asking them. And of course, they're super pertinent because they can point towards medical issues that you might not see otherwise. So these are the more simpler, straightforward questions. And then you can think of questions such as, does your cat sometimes get into squabbles or conflict with other animals in the home, with the humans in your home? Do they sometimes growl, hiss, bite, scratch, or paw slap? And so this is different ways of thinking about it. Growl, hiss, bite, scratch, these are really observable behaviors, whereas conflict or squabbles are a bit more, it can be interpreted in different ways, so it's different ways of thinking about it, which might lead you to different answers. Does your cat move about in your home in a relaxed manner during the day? So do we have a cat who spends most of his time like sleeping or hiding, but the person just thinks this is normal, and so they're not going to bring it up? Or do we have a cat that's really anxious and doesn't want to start moving about, or are they painful? What's your cat scared of? How does your cat react to your absence? So I'm not saying you should be asking every single one of these questions. I'm saying these are interesting ways to think about it. And if you decide to do a little questionnaire that people can fill out while they wait for the vet, maybe these might be some of the ones you might want to include. And then you have questions that are more about the person in front of you. So how do you feel about your cat? Are there things that worry you about your cat? What about your cat keeps you up at night? Is there anything about your cat that you feel is off? And so these questions are a bit more about the feelings of the person in front of you. And so they're not very specific, but they open up a larger world of, is there something that maybe seems off, but you haven't mentioned it because you think it's probably not important? And then probably the person maybe mentions it and maybe it is important. So those are, and you might pick only one of those, like, is there anything that worries you about your cat currently? Or I like the one, like, do you feel is off? Because it's that little, oh, there's something that has been annoying me, but yeah. So another question is, do you have another cat that you can't bring in to see us? Because that might get you another cat in the clinic if we can get them to come. And very often these cats are very fearful, and that's the reason that you don't actually see them. So once you've asked that and the person has mentioned things, you can say, it sounds like this is something that is having an impact on you and on your cat. Would you like help on the behavior side of things? Because there are professionals who do that, and this is like a relay race. So the behavior professionals take the baton once we've taken you as far as we can, and they might pass it back to us if they discover new things. Because of course we spend a lot of time with clients, more than you can afford to spend. And so sometimes we pick up on things and we're like, did you tell this to the vet? And sometimes they haven't. So we're all working together because we want your cat to be happy. So what's in it for you? Well, the cats that you've never seen, your clients can now book an appointment because we've worked with them to put an action plan in place, and they now feel equipped to be able to bring their cat in. So you get those new cat patients. Your patients actually do take their medication because we've troubleshooted with their human what's the best way for them to be successful at doing that. We talked about this in the first session. Your patients are more cooperative during exams because they've been trained for handling, and we've helped your clients to see the benefits of PVPs and or sedation on their cat's emotional state. So that's less scratches, less bites to your staff. And of course, we're not qualified for medication. I'm saying this just because I really love the book How Minds Change from David McCraney. One of the things that stands out in there is that very often, in order to change our opinion, we need more than one source telling us. So if you've told them that PVPs are a good idea, the behavior consultant says, yes, your vet is absolutely right. I mean, I've seen a lot of my clients have a lot more success at the vet with the PVPs on board. And then perhaps I give them an article from Fear Free on the website talking about PVPs. That's resources, and then they might go, okay, it's not just that vet that told me, there's a wider world out there of people who are saying this is good. So I'm not pretending that I'm competent in prescribing big meds. I'm saying, as behavior professionals, we can help you to change your client's view of medication just by backing up what you've already said. Your patients are more cooperative. Oh, sorry, we did that one. So less bites, less scratches to your staff. That's wonderful. Your patients that have FIC won't flare up as much because we've improved their home and their life, and they aren't as stressed anymore. You have less patients that arrive with injuries due to fighting with other dogs or cats in the home, and so you have less distressed clients. This one's a little crude, but so true. Clients that show up with a smile instead of a request for euthanasia. That's a really sad and difficult part of your job. And if we can catch these people earlier, then they might actually be able to put in place a good plan that is going to change their animal's behavior, and you don't end up getting asked to euthanize a cat that pees outside of the litter box. So it's a crude one, but a really important one. And you have clients that follow your medical recommendations better because we're taking care of the behavioral side. We can spend time discussing the importance of solving the medical issues in order for behavior to change. That's another thing. Your vet said to do this and now you're coming to see me, but have you actually done this? Because it is very valuable and you should be doing it. And we are, as I said before, your eyes and your ears to gather pertinent information that's pertinent for you, but that does not necessarily always reach you otherwise. So any change in behavior that have a medical component. So that's good for you just because sometimes we pick up on things that you just couldn't know because the client didn't know they should talk about it. When to use our services. So of course, when the medical causes seem to be ruled out, I write seem because sometimes we pick up on stuff that we can throw back at you and you can discover new things. Whenever there's a break in the human-cat relationship, so anything we've talked before, aggression, finding pee all around the house, these are all things that strain the relationship that people have with their cats. And so that's where we want to intervene so that we can repair that relationship. Any behavior that's threatening, either to people, the kids, other animals in the house. A lack of behavioral diversity, that's a really important one. That sometimes gets overlooked. So a cat that doesn't move about during the day, that doesn't do a lot of behaviors, that just sits there or lies there most of the time, that's not normal. It's a little red flag that tells us there's something wrong. Cats will normally eat, play, go see what's in the window, move about. Even older cats, if they're not in pain, they should. If they're in pain, I mean, we see that and we can then address that. If they're not in pain, even though they're old, they will do things. They will roam about the house and look at stuff. And so lack of behavioral diversity, whether it's because of pain or anxiety, we can help clients to see that, okay, this is not optimal. What can we see to try to put in place to see if it helps this cat move about? And if it doesn't help, well, maybe we need to go back to the medical side. Whenever providing care is difficult, so whether it's for nail trims, administering medication that you've prescribed, doing grooming, those kinds of things, we can certainly help with that. We can design plans that will work for the client. We can train cats. Cats can also eat their pill willingly, not just with the technique we saw in the first session, but we have other tools up our sleeve. And then when I say tools, I say training tools. I'm not talking about buying something online. So that's it. And then when your clients need help quickly while waiting to see a veterinary behaviorist, we can't do anything about meds, but of course we can do a lot about helping them with management so that this behavior stops being such a strain on their daily energy and resources, and so that they can start to love their cat again, and we can put in place a couple of behavior training things in the meantime. Or we can continue and do even more if they haven't the funds available to see a vet behaviorist. We can certainly help. And sometimes you guys are comfortable doing sometimes vet to vet, which is quicker with vet behaviorists and costs less typically, or prescribing medication. So we can work on the behavioral side while you do the medical and medication side of things. And what do they get? So when your clients come to see us for behavior issues, we do a thorough evaluation of the cat's life, the environment, interactions, their needs, their triggers, their motivation, their stress escalation scale. We explain the sources of the problem, and we customize an action plan that's going to work for them in their home, because if it doesn't work for them, then they're not going to put it into action. And they get supplemented resources depending on their case, so training plans, videos, explanatory pictures and videos, and we can also do real-time coaching during training sessions. How do we encourage action in people? I love this quote from Beth Adelman, who's a behavior consultant in New York. She says, if you change nothing, nothing will change. And that's, to me, very powerful, because it's really, really simple and so true. So I don't have a magic wand. You don't have a magic wand. And sometimes our clients just wish that we had a magic wand. So they are going to need to make a little effort, but we're there to support them and to create the path in front of them for them to follow. So if you change nothing, nothing will change. We don't need to use threat or pain to change your cat's behavior. It's not required, and it ruins the trust that your cat had in you. The knowledge that we have in ethology and in behavior science today allows us to do much better, and that's why there are feline behavior professionals. We have the time to go through all aspects of your cat's life to really figure out the nooks and crannies that explain why the behavior is happening. I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you if you've gone also through the whole series. If there's anything I can do for your team to help your clients, don't hesitate to reach out. And if there's any other topics you'd like for me to cover in possible future Lunch and Learns, do also give me a little email. My email would be at the end of the resources of this course. Thank you for all you do to help our cats every day, and I wish you a great rest of your day.